religion until I know everything about it. Like they got proof about, evolution and Neanderthals and all that stuff. And, like, how are you sure there's even a God or a Jesus? Like, how do you know if you could follow the book? Like, why do you guys get so much faith into it?
Thank you for your question. That's a very important question, Issa. Stay on the line. We actually will keep you on the line for David to respond in case you have any follow-up questions. Stay right there.
All right.
All right. Yeah, and I'll respond briefly. It seems that this would be a better topic to go into more detail in when we have our special on atheism next month, where we can go kind of step by step. I'll give you a few thoughts right now, because I'm a former atheist. I was not raised as a Christian. I didn't believe in God the entire time I was growing up. I later came to believe in God, and I came to believe in Jesus Christ. And as far as being a Christian, if you're wondering why I would be a Christian, it's pretty simple, actually. When we look to history, we can know historically that Jesus died on the cross and that he rose from the dead. We know that Jesus was a historical figure who was crucified. We know this not only from the sources in the New Testament, we know it from some non-Christian sources, we know it from Jewish sources, from Christian sources, and from Roman or pagan sources. Everyone agrees that Jesus died. So Jesus dies by crucifixion. We know it's a historical fact, and don't take my word for that. You can even go to people who are very critical of Christianity, people like Bart Ehrman or the Jesus Seminar. These are people who attack Christianity, but they consider Jesus' death by crucifixion to be one of the best established facts of ancient history. So we can take it as a fact that Jesus died by crucifixion. Now, that's not a problem. Tons of people died by crucifixion. We also believe that Jesus rose from the dead. And how do we know this? Well, we know that many of Jesus' followers went to their horrible, bloody deaths proclaiming that he had appeared to them. So there are lots of facts we can investigate with respect to Jesus' resurrection. The most important is that Jesus' followers were convinced to the point where they were willing to endure torture and death because of their claim that Jesus had risen from the dead and had appeared to them. Now, the obvious objection here is lots of people die for something that's not true. The terrorists who flew their planes into the Twin Towers, they were dying. They were willing to die for something that's false. So just because someone believes in something doesn't make it true. But here's the key. When a terrorist, when a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew or an atheist or anyone, even today, when someone is willing to die for what they believe in, it's clear that they believe in it. So when a terrorist flies his plane into a building, it's obvious that he really believes what he's doing. He believes in what he's dying for. The difference is when someone dies for their beliefs today, they're dying because of what someone else told them. So when a Muslim blows himself up for Allah, he's doing that based on a revelation that was passed down to him, not based on something he saw with his own eyes. This is very different from the first century, when Jesus' followers were dying for something they claimed to have experienced with him. They said, they all agreed they had seen him risen from the dead. He had appeared to them, was walking around with them. Here again, this is a fact that is undisputed. Go to Bart Ehrman, go to the Jesus Seminar. These are critics of Christianity, but they all agree that the disciples were convinced that he had appeared to them to the point that they were willing to die for that belief. So what do we have here? You have the fact that we know historically that Jesus died on the cross. We know that. Even critical scholars, even scholars who aren't Christians, will agree Jesus died on the cross. And you have the fact that Jesus' followers were claiming that he had risen from the dead and had appeared to them, and they were willing to die for it, which meant that they really believed it. Now, for me, when I was an atheist, I had to deal with this, and I tried to think, what could have convinced these people that Jesus rose from the dead and appeared to them? What could have convinced them to the point where they're going out and dying for this belief? The only thing I could come up with was Jesus really did appear to them. So you have Jesus died by crucifixion, we know that, and he appeared to his followers after he died. So what we have here is Jesus rose from the dead, not based on just faith, not based on what someone, just some random person told us. We can know historically that Jesus died on the cross and that he rose from the dead. But if Jesus rose from the dead, then if I'm going to listen to anyone tell me about God, it's him. If I'm not going to listen to Muhammad, there's no evidence that Muhammad was a prophet. I'm not going to listen to other people, some person talking to me on the subway telling me he's speaking for God. What's the evidence? With Jesus, we have God's stamp of approval. If Jesus rose from the dead, then God raised him from the dead. And if God raised him from the dead, I don't believe that God is going to raise a heretic or a false teacher from the dead. So what we have here is God's stamp of approval on Jesus' message. What was Jesus' message? He claimed to be the divine incarnate Lord who was going to die on the cross for our sins. And so if I'm going to believe anything, if I'm going to believe in anything, in any religion, it has to be the message of Jesus. He's the one who died on the cross and rose from the dead, confirming that whatever his message is, it's the truth. And what was his message? He would die on the cross for sins, and he is Lord. Therefore, if I'm going to believe something, I have to believe Jesus died on the cross for sins, and he is Lord, and I have to submit to him. Now, I understand if you still have objections or thoughts or concerns. This is a massive topic. It requires careful investigation. You can look on some debates on my website where we've discussed these issues more fully, and I promise you we'll go into much more detail when we have specials on atheism next month. We can go step by step, looking at the sources, looking at the Gospels, the writings of Paul, writings outside the New Testament, Roman writings, Jewish writings, showing Jesus did die on the cross, and we know that his followers were dying for their claim that he appeared to them. So we have good evidence that Jesus was dead and that he was alive again after he was dead, and that's good evidence for Christianity.
And really quick, before I turn it over to you, Cornelius, the Exposing Atheism show will be May 7th and May 8th live. If you want the times of the shows exactly, email us to jesusormuhammad@abnset.com. We'll give that to you. But again, May 7th and May 8th. Cornelius, are you still with us?
Isa. Hello?
Yes, are you still with us, Cornelius?
It's Isa, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Isa, yes. Sorry about that. Did you have a follow-up question for David?
Yeah, I understand the fact that Jesus died on the cross. I believe that he did die on the cross. But how do you know, like, he's really got, like they said, dinosaurs, they got proof of dinosaurs, right? And you know, I don't think humans were around the dinosaurs. So how do you know God made the whole world, did all that stuff? Like, how do you get faith in God? There's not proof. Books is just written stuff. People write books all the time, you know?
Okay, so it sounds like you changed your objection to how do we know how do we know that God exists? Well, there are all kinds of ways that we can know that God exists. For instance, if you're just going by what we would learn about in science, the universe had a beginning. If you go into a modern class on cosmology or physics, you find that the universe had a beginning. But here's a general rule that I think everyone would agree to. If something begins to exist, if something has a beginning, it must have a cause. Universes don't just appear out of nowhere. So if the universe had a beginning, it came into existence, it exploded, or whatever you want to say, then it must have a cause. What could cause the entire universe? Well, I would say God. If you have a better explanation, I'd love to know it. What about the origin of life? Do you know how complex life is? I later got into philosophy, but originally I graduated in biology, and I was focused on molecular biology. If you look at just the facts about biology and DNA, it boggles the mind. I have a laptop right here in front of me. There is a hard drive in here that stores information. The information storage system in this laptop is a joke compared to the information storage system in our cells, DNA. So just to clarify here, the hard drive in this laptop can store the information of about 750,000 books. That's very, very good, top-of-the-line hard drive in this laptop. Can store the information of about 750,000 books. DNA, if you took just a teaspoon of DNA, it could store all of the genetic information of every species of organism, living organism that has ever lived, and still have enough room to hold the information contained in every book that has ever been written. That's how sophisticated the information storage system is in DNA. DNA is just a long chain of code that tells your body what proteins to make to keep all your systems